There was no need for that. Right, good morning. Welcome to the Writers' Toolkit and to the University of Birmingham. We're delighted to be here and delighted that so many of you are here. Some of you may know that we limit attendance to the Toolkit, including speakers, to 150, so we are sold out, which is terrific. I'm Jonathan Davidson and I work for Writing West Midlands, and my duty is to just give you a few introductory notes before I hand over to our first speaker and before you then go and enjoy the sessions and conversations you're going to have across the day. So our thanks are sincerely given to Arts Council England, who fund Writing West Midlands activities and I hope fund lots of other literature activities in the region. We're very grateful for their continued support. And today, particularly to the University of Birmingham, who have worked very closely with us in putting this day together and made available this magnificent venue, which is a real pleasure to be in. It's the first time we've been here, so it should all work perfectly. But if for some reason the turkey vol-au-vents aren't of the quality you normally expect, then yes, that was funny, thank you. Then please bear with us. And in fact, there are no turkey vol-au-vents, but you can never tell. Occasionally, a turkey vol-au-vent will release itself into a conference. We'd also like to thank the Royal Literary Fund, who again have generously supported this day, and it's the start of a lot of work they're hoping to do in the West Midlands, and we're very pleased to be working with them. And my thanks to all our speakers and the chairs of the sessions and our volunteers, and of course our staff who are working extremely hard to make this a very good day for you all. So before we start, a few sundry notes. Some of you will have seen there is a table out in the foyer selling books and other ephemera, including the near legendary Writing West Midlands tea towel, which I happen to have one with me because I noticed there was a dusty glass beneath my lectern, and I don't know about you, but when I'm in public, if I see a dusty glass, I want to buff it up. And what better piece of equipment for buffing up a dusty glass than a writing West Midlands tea towel? If you're in favour of all these writers, you can do it with reverence. If you think that Shakespeare is vastly overrated, then you can buff up with a certain difference. So the tea towel has a number of routes. But I mention the tea towel only because it is available on the bookstore. And if you become a friend of Writing West Midlands, you may also get one. I'll say no more about that. They're already appearing on eBay. A few extra notes for today, in addition to what's in your pack. James Urquhart, who's Literature Relationships Manager for Arts Council England for the Midlands, is going to be here. And at lunchtime, he's happy to have some conversations with people about funding from the Arts Council. If you have a particular project you'd like to spend 3 or 4 minutes talking to him about, then he'll be happy to sit down and have a brief conversation with you. And you can book a session with him on our information desk. So if you have an idea, then do get back to the desk at one of the breaks and book. And James will be around for some of the day as well. We are going to be doing some live streaming from this very stage. We may even be live streaming at the moment. The people of Kazakhstan have opened up their cafes early in order to hear me witter on. We may live stream from this stage across the day or for bits of the day. If you want to find out if it's happening or to tweet other people to show them how wonderful the opening act was, then you can go to @WritingWestMids on Twitter and find out about it. How the day works. Some of you have been with us before. I'm enjoying the pop of folders opening. That's very nice. That's just me up here. You can't hear that. We have 2 keynote speeches, one at the start of the day and one at the end. So shortly, Catherine O'Flynn, and to close our session, our day, Salman Sangira. And then, as you will have noticed, the day's divided into 4 blocks, and each block has 4 sessions. You can only go to 1 session at a time. You can go to 4 sessions in total. You will have been encouraged to sign up for a session, but if you change your mind, you want to go to something else, then that's absolutely fine. You can change your mind at a moment's notice. It really doesn't matter. We're trying to encourage the sessions to be evenly filled. So if your session has only got 2 people in it, please don't change your mind at that point. Stick around, because the speakers will value that. Lunch will be on the first floor of the foyer, so not the floor you've been on, but the one above it, obviously. And afternoon tea and coffee will also be up there. There is, in the afternoon, a slightly longer break for networking, and we hope by then you'll be talking to people who didn't previously know, so that's an opportunity to continue those conversations. We have Wi-Fi, and you will need an individual code. Some of you may have been given one. If you haven't got one, if you go back to the information desk, they can give you an individual code to go with our password, our username, which allows you to access Wi-Fi while you're at the university. I've mentioned possibly that the hashtag is Writers Toolkit 2014. And the other things I have to say is I know a lot of you know each other, or some of you know some of each other, and you've been talking to the people you know, and that's really nice. Of course, the glory of this day is that you talk to people you didn't previously know. You talk to people about your writing ideas, and you listen to them talking about their writing ideas. Although our speakers are august and exemplary in what they have to tell you, the real value of this day is in all of your ideas and your enthusiasms and your experiences being shared. So although we are in England, don't be English about this, and try and make sure you speak to at least one person you don't know. There are name badges, so you've got the opening gambit, and hopefully you've all got the right name badges. I did go to a conference once where we all swapped name badges at half time. That was a bad conference. So keep your own name badge, unless you've got the McEwen Magic Mystery name badge. One of you will have been given that, in which case no one will talk to you. Anyway, moving on. You see, anything I say is only funny to 1/10 of the audience. If I talk enough, everyone will have had a laugh. But because I said to Catherine O'Flynn, I said, I'll warm them up. I said, they'll be gagging for you by the time I'm done with my spiel, or desperate, one or the other. Anyway, we are delighted to have as our first keynote speaker, Catherine O'Flynn. As most of you know, she is a novelist, and she lives in Birmingham, and she's from Birmingham. She has 3 novels published, The News Where You Are, Mr. Lynch's Holiday, and What Was Lost. What Was Lost, of course, won the Costa First Novel Award in 2007. She's written for Granted, The Independent, The Observer, and her work has been featured on Radio 3 and Radio 4. There's a possibility within 10 years she may have achieved the status of regional treasure. That's what we hope. And you know, from regional treasure, well, it's only up to national, isn't it? Anyway, Catherine will be very embarrassed about me saying that, but she is a wonderful writer and a wonderful example of a writer plying their trade in Birmingham and in the West Midlands and making a fantastic success of it. And I do hope you enjoy what she has to say to you. And would you please join with me in welcoming Catherine O'Flynn. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Jonathan. I say thanks, I didn't actually hear any of that. I was in a soundproof bunker and I put headphones on at the end. I just heard him saying, one day she might be a regional treasure. And that's possibly the greatest praise I've ever had. So that's my aspiration from now on, to be a West Midlands treasure. So before I talk, and obviously entirely unprompted by anything called, I don't know if there's been a screen going up there, I just wondered if any of you were friends of Writing West Midlands, because apparently by joining the Friends scheme today, and as I say, this has been an unprompted announcement on my part, you can get discounts at Writing West Midlands events, discounts on books, discounts most impressively of all on tea and coffee. I'm not sure where, but tea and coffee, perhaps anywhere you can get. Full details are in the season brochure, and most excitingly, if you join today, and this is what I think might cause a stampede, you will get a free tea towel. So with that in mind. So yeah, hello. As this is a room of writers, I thought that helpfully what I do today is talk not about writing, but the other things that we do. And by other things, I mean more specifically, things of the non-paid variety, though of course often the writing is also non-paid. The interviews, the talks, the blogs, the tweets, sometimes the appearances, all the things that more vulgar, business-minded people might call publicity. My motivation for talking about this is not that of an expert wishing to impart advice, but on the contrary, because I have experienced such a richness of awkward, bizarre, and eye-watering situations that I'm clinging to the hope that they were all for some better reason than just my humiliation. For some reason, not especially clear to me, people like to hear writers of all types talk, whether it's in a library, a festival, at a writing group, or on the pages of a newspaper. And this can be problematic, as talking is something we as writers are supposed to struggle with. I guess the stereotype of a writer is some asocial, barely functioning adult, only really happy on their own, in their leisure pants, tapping away, covered in toast crumbs. That's certainly true of me. The truth, of course, is that some writers engage extremely energetically with their readers and potential readers, tweeting, blogging, offering advice, giving writing tips, cajoling, arguing, and any manner of whoring and ligging that seems fun or useful or offers free alcohol. Others shy away, feeling either unable or simply disinclined to get involved with the whole business. Probably like most of us, I veer quite erratically between the two extremes, depending on my mood, where I am with my writing, and how long it's been since I spoke to another human being. I used to work as a postwoman, and this brought me into contact with a lot of housebound dogs. And it's widely believed that dogs hate posties, that they're inflamed by the sort of territorial incursions of the Royal Mail. And it's true, they do, and they are. But it always seemed to me that their ridiculous behaviour, hurling themselves at doors, attempting to eat my fingers, bouncing up and down to glare at me through frosted glass panels, were simply manifestations of their terrible loneliness and profound boredom. Not that they ever thanked me for this sympathetic rationalisation of their behaviour. The point is, since becoming a writer, I am the dog, staring mournfully out of the window for long periods, scurrying downstairs, sometimes barking at squirrels on my lawn. Is it any wonder that when I get an invitation to do some publicity event, I sometimes rip the envelope to shreds in my excitement? I'm not interested in selling my book or getting my name known. What I'm interested in is sniffing around other human beings and watching their mouths move as they say things. But occasionally, these sallies forth into the daylight end with me feeling quite bruised and sullied and mildly traumatised and wondering why I ever said yes. So I thought I'd run through my dark places, as James Elroy would say, some of my bleaker publicity experiences, and I'm sure we all have our own personal favourites, and then attempt, perhaps desperately, to draw some lessons from the horror. So here is my mea culpa. I have failed to say an emphatic no to a local press photographer when asked to perch my chin on my hands and my elbows on a pile of my own books and lean forward, grinning like a QVC presenter. I have allowed myself to be photographed sitting in front of my monitor, looking tentative, with the title of my book on the screen as if caught at the very moment of creation. I have been told while 8.5 months pregnant by another press photographer to use the hardback edition of my new novel to, and I quote, hide the lump. I've been listed, he said that repeatedly, he kept saying lump rather than bump, which was really upsetting. I've been listed on a lunch menu as the starter, the main course, and then the dessert, to be served at 3 adjacent tables of entirely indifferent US journalists who just wanted to enjoy the free food. I've been publicly corrected by a terrifying marketing executive after delivering what I thought was my best and most snappy synopsis of my novel to those same entirely indifferent US journalists with the words, "That is not what her book is about at all." I have spoken at libraries where the disastrous decision has been taken to withhold tea and biscuits until after my talk, which was apparently to save me the distraction of tinkling crockery, resulting in the constant bleeping of reversing mobility scooters as visitors left in outrage. That was King's Heath Library, if anybody ever does that again. I have had to, this is even quite hard to say, I have had to support the weight of a large, heavy, wooden, theatrical prop book that a more established author was attempting to crush me with in what I think you'd have to call a high-concept photo shoot for a magazine, which was terrible. I've had to conduct a live telephone interview with an Australian radio show in which I could only hear one word in 20, whilst my malevolent and possibly insane Australian publicist laughed and laughed at the unfolding car crash. I've been asked by a woman if she could touch my face. I've been mistaken by a bookseller for Gillian Flynn, by my own mother-in-law for Katie Flynn, and on one notable occasion was mistaken by a photographer's assistant for an up-and-coming chef and told to put my whites on. So, and I really could go on, and I really do, believe it or not, often say no. And I truly hope that everyone in this room has experienced similar or worse humiliations. So why do we do these things? What do they achieve? Are we trying to increase our profile? To sell books? Is that our main goal? If so, it's worth examining the assumption that lies behind that. I remember feeling quite crestfallen after some nice reviews of my last book, where my editor said, yeah, they're nice, but of course good reviews don't sell books. And I have to say that I'd always naively believed that a good review in a national paper would do that. But then I thought about it. How many people actually read the book pages now? How many book pages are even still standing? Many of us in this room still read them maybe, but how many of us then rush out and order the well-reviewed book from a shop or library? Maybe some of us, maybe occasionally. Maybe if it's the 3rd or 4th time that book has been brought to our attention. And then as for items in local press or on local radio, well then I guess the take-up is even lower. The lack of a clear and straightforward correlation between media coverage and sales was explored in an interesting piece in the New York Review of Books in July this year by the author Tim Parks. I don't know if any of you read it. The piece was entitled, "Raise Your Hand If You've Read Knausgaard," referring to the international best-selling literary phenomenon Karl Ove Knausgaard. I have international and best-selling in quotes there because the article revealed that despite near blanket coverage in the literary pages for the best part of a year and ringing endorsements from pretty much every literary heavyweight going, Knausgaard's UK sales had been in fact fairly modest. Parks went on to talk about Salman Rushdie's memoir, Joseph Anton. So just to sort of put it in context, this is Salman Rushdie, one of the best known authors in the world, recipient of the so-called Booker of Bookers, and it's not his new novel, which perhaps might be more difficult to some, but a memoir, and not the memoir of a humdrum novelist, but the memoir of a man who had a price upon his head and lived as a fugitive for years. So you would think that very little publicity was necessary. But here I quote from Parks's article. Rushdie's Joseph Anton, a memoir telling of his years in hiding after the fatwa, commanded enormous column space in the press, understandably, given the subject. Just 7,521 in hardback and only 1,896 in paperback, which I think is pretty surprising. In my experience, and I'm sure what we all suspect anyway, there's no magic formula. There's no simple trick to widening your appeal, if that's what you're interested in. Not massive media coverage, not big publisher backing, not, I'm sorry to say, even wonderful writing. I don't say that from my experience, just that's what I've seen. It can be all and none of those things. And I fear that the publishers themselves are often at a loss why certain books fly and others sink, as is evidenced by the regular end-of-year articles in which editors bemoan the books they have launched and failed to take off. I've been speaking, as you may have noticed, from the point of view of a novelist, and I apologise for my limited perspective. There's a nice bit in the poet and novelist Ben Lerner's new novel, 1004. In it, he's writing about some unnamed, eminent, and as it turns out, very hypocritical author giving a speech, and I just want to read a little quote from it. There were the usual exhortations to purity. Think of the novel not as your opportunity to get rich or famous, but to wrestle in your own way with the titans of the form. Exhortations poets don't have to make, given the economic marginality of the art, an economic marginality that soon all literature will share. Which, as Homer Simpson would say, is funny because it's true. So here's my own exhortation to purity. The way I feel about book sales is pretty much how I feel about the job of getting published in the first place. It's not really any reflection on the work. And if you go into writing with being published or once published shifting units as your chief goal, then you're laying yourself bare to elements over which you have little or no control. My reasons for doing what might loosely be termed publicity events are as follows. Most often, it's an opportunity to meet actual readers and talk directly to them and hear what they have to say. Sometimes it's because the publishers have asked me to do it, and therefore I guess they hope it might generate some sales. Sometimes it's a chance to visit somewhere nice, sit in a green room and gawp at famous people. And sometimes, particularly where press photographers are involved, it's some kind of masochistic urge which makes me undergo humiliation for the simple reward of amusing anecdotes and possible future speech content. So my trite little homily to conclude this address is where publicity is concerned, as with writing itself, I try and do it for the right reasons, to do it under no illusions, and do it primarily for myself. Thank you.
Well, that was a wonderful start to our day. Thank you so much, Catherine, for describing so many events and opportunities that I sadly might have been involved in, encouraging you to take part in. But anyway, good writing still prevails, we hope. So we're now going to move into our first session, which doesn't start until 10:45. So you have sort of 15 minutes to acclimatise yourself or finish a cup of coffee or whatever. If you're coming to the agents and contracts session, that's here. So you might want to move towards the centre block. If you're going to one of the other free sessions, they're all in the Nuffield building, and they're in rooms with the letter G at the start of them, G being the first letter of the word Nuffield. If you're at the University of Birmingham, where they probably use a different calendar and alphabet. So people will guide you around to the Nuffield building. You leave through the entrance you've used and go round to the right and round to the right again. It's just sort of over there. And those events are writing in place, residencies, trails, etc., writing for television and screen, and building new audiences for poetry. So we'll see you at those events. If you are at all lost or confused by any aspect of today, then do ask any of my colleagues who are in the Writing West Midlands badge or any of our volunteers, and we'll try and guide you in the right direction. Let's once again thank Catherine O'Flynn. Thank you.